If you were not conditioned, or you have deconditioned yourself, which you do a lot of it on your way to full consciousness. Biggest parts become deconditioned on your journey to full consciousness. Although there are so many subtle levels that it's a continuous awareness which is required, a continuous self-monitoring. There is a saying that the guru should keep their focus on the self, because by doing so, you don't allow your attention to wander into automated patterns. So at the deepest level, conditioning is that which creates automation. Your attention gets drawn to the automation and it just starts to follow the thought patterns, starts to automatically engage with emotions, automatically even deeper to engage with energies. So when your attention falls into automation, whether it's mental, emotional, or energetic, or altogether psychological, so it means that there is some conditioning at play. When you start to closely observe it, why is my attention following this thought pattern, this mental pattern? It's not about trying to stop it. It's more about observing this thought pattern. A beautiful technique for those of you who are more advanced is to actually follow the automation and see where it goes. So when you consciously follow the stream, when you consciously follow the rabbit hole, you find the truth. That, of course, requires more consciousness. It requires more presence so that you're able to consciously follow those patterns, whether emotional, energetic, mental patterns, subconscious patterns. It goes deep and deep and deep. It goes very deep. And this work is done all the way to full consciousness. When you consciously follow through with it, staying present, staying fully aware, you consciously follow through that stream of automation, you will find what that is all about. And then you will see how it arose within you from past experiences. It can get even so subconscious that maybe when you were a teenager, a child, just somebody said something. And for you, it made no sense at that time. And you never even thought about it. But 20, 30, 40 years later, when you follow that stream, you will find that something has sank in you, in your subconscious, and your conscious mind made no sense out of it. But subconsciously, it sank in and it created that conditioned pattern. And you were affected your whole life for decades. As I said, it's quite surprising how deep it goes. So the true self, the authentic self, is the one which is beyond conditioning, beyond those automated patterns. So this is why the true self is called Sahaja, the natural self. Therefore, it allows God or the self, the highest levels of consciousness, to be expressed through you, through your unique system. And when you are open And when your attention is not following conditional patterns, you receive more and more of the presence of your natural self. There is a saying that God has a perfect plan for each soul, but the troubled soul receives a human body. And on top of it, not only that it is physical in nature, which is already limiting, but it's being intentionally conditioned. For the soul, there is so much struggle to endure, to reach the conscious mind. I also have a great empathy for the angelic world because angels, they know what is best for every human being. Soul guides, spirit guides, whichever way we look at it, at the spiritual level, it is so difficult. I have so much compassion for them because it is so difficult for them to reach human beings. Human beings, many of them are like automated machines already, cloned robots, basically. Some of them are a bit more conscious. We measure that on average, the average human being is only 4% conscious. The rest, on average, is conditioned, suppressed. Only 4%. So now picture if you are an angel and you try to help this human being. Try to picture that. And this human being is so narrow-minded that it just follows the automated procedure day by day. So how do you help him? How do you help as an angel somebody who is deeply conditioned? How much patience do you need with that person? This is why when I see angels, I'm like, oh, so compassionate for their work because they have infinite patience. They need to be so creative to reach those human beings. They need to be very creative, very patient, and continuously find ways to help. Of course, some people, they don't even want to be helped. How about that? Well, it's a bit of a similar story with your higher self, because your higher self is also always knowing what is best for you, but you say it makes no sense. So you turn to the left, and the higher self watches like that and says, I told you so. You're gonna fall in the ditch. And say, it makes no sense. I'm gonna follow the left road, and then you fall into the ditch. And the higher self says, I told you so. So we can see that even spiritual people fall into the ditches because they are used to following what makes sense, what is logical, or what your life is right now. And if your higher self or something higher divine will brings some higher message, you may reject it. You may say, well, in my life right now, it doesn't fit. But if you were not conditioned, and if you were open and strong, you would have capacity to alter the course of your life. You would have capacity to stop in that moment, stop whatever you're doing, become very present. Even if the whole river of life was flowing in this direction, if you're aligned with the divine will, you stop in that moment wherever the whole rafting river was taking you. You stop it right there and you have capacity to change the course. Now that requires an extreme level of capacity. Sometimes even you will be pressurized by your partner, by your beloved, by your kids, by whatever your responsibilities are, by society, by your work, by anything else. You might receive a lot of pressure to continue what you were doing. And if you don't listen to the divine will, you will fall into that ditch, or you will not utilize the higher potential, a better timeline, more expression of the nature of God. So the true self, and it doesn't come automatic either, because some people assume that just by being in higher consciousness, you will automatically be well within the divine guidance. No, every moment you have to be aware. It doesn't come automatically. You have to be present. So as Ramana Maharshi has said, you need effort to become more effortless. You become effortless by being fixed, your attention fixed on the divine, on the self. So when you are fixed on the higher nature of consciousness, then whatever comes, it is in alignment with the divine. Sometimes it may make no sense in life because now this is the level of gurus and sadgurus. One of the biggest examples actually is Avatar Meher Baba, whose life is an example of challenges of the will of God. So for those of you who know a little bit of his story of life, he has underwent very, you may say, austerities, very huge sacrifices of this physical reality life to be in alignment with God. And sometimes it didn't make his life any easier, and he still did it. It created a lot of hardship. He still did it. Those who followed, only those who had enough courage and capacity managed to stay with him, because others have dropped like fleas. They dropped away because they couldn't handle it. It was too difficult. So sometimes God may want something very challenging to overcome. And if you are aligned with God, with the will of the divine, you will go through it. If you chicken out, well, God has all the patience in the universe, but your life is short though. God counts in yugas, you count in years. So you will miss your opportunity in this life. Therefore, the will of God is not an easy thing. It never goes easy way. Sometimes it does, but many times it doesn't. So God's plan is perfect, but to follow it, it's not an easy thing at all. There's a saying, you gotta do what you gotta do. No matter how difficult it is, it has to be done. So that's why your true, authentic self, it doesn't mean roses or easy things. And freedom is something that you gain strength to be at. Freedom doesn't come easy. Nobody ever said that freedom is easy. You have to disassociate easy and freedom. Because usually freedom means easy, but it's not. You have to be very strong to be free in the world of duality, in the world of human conditioning. in the world of limitation. What does freedom truly mean? Freedom is the will of God, abidance in God. Jesus is a good example of freedom. His life is an example of absolute knowing of the Father God. And he merged with the will of the Father God. He became the Father God. But that wasn't easy. And sometimes it requires great sacrifices. We may say disassociate from the easy and associate with sacrifice. But you sacrifice not for the world. There's again the sacrifice for the world, which we may say becomes more conditioned living versus sacrifice to God beyond the world. So when you sacrifice to God, then you attain freedom. When you sacrifice for the world, for example, for money, you get more bondage. For the fame, for jobs, for material possessions, for certain kind of relationships, accumulations, when you sacrifice your precious time and effort and spiritual energy that has given to you in this life, when you waste it for those kind of sacrifices on the negative polarity, you're wasting your spiritual potential. But when you orient yourself to the will of God, you overcome conditioning. You become in the world, but not of the world. And you work through your karma. You become aware what is karma, and you just work through it. It's never easy either. But when you work through it, you become more and more free, less and less bound to the physical world, to the astral world, to the mental world. You become unbounded from this universe. You become unbounded from creation, even positive creation. And you live like a God man or God woman in alignment with the nature of God, which sometimes may make no sense to those living in the world. But it makes complete sense to you because you know the will of God. Therefore, coming towards your natural, authentic, true self, it has all to do with deconditioning, getting to know these high levels, realizing high levels of consciousness, and then working through the karma so that more and more you are truly free, even while living in this world of duality.